Welcome back to my channel, everybody, or welcome if you are new. My name is Sarah, and today I am sharing 4 chicken dinner recipes with you. These are very easy. I would say they're budget friendly, they're family friendly. My family enjoyed them, and they are all chicken. Chicken is cheaper to buy right now than beef, so we've been eating a lot of chicken, so I thought maybe I would give you some motivation here for chicken dinners. So first, I am just starting out for this recipe. I'm going to be making some enchiladas, chicken enchiladas, and I'm just starting out by cooking my chicken in my Instant Pot. First of all, if any of you have any tips or tricks on how to get the discoloration out of the bottom of my Instant Pot insert pan, I will definitely take them because I have scrubbed this thing and it just will not come clean. So I put my little trivet down, put the chicken on, cut some slices in it because they were still a little bit frozen, put a little bit of water in the bottom, and then seasoned it with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. And I'm just cooking it there. If you had a rotisserie chicken, that would work really well also. Or you can cook your chicken however you prefer. If you want to make it in a pan, if you want to buy canned chicken, you could do that. So however you like your chicken. And then for the filling, it's a cream cheese chicken enchiladas. So I have cream cheese here, and then I have some garlic powder, and I'm going to throw in 1 can of diced green chilies. Then I'm going to add in some shredded cheese. I used a cheddar jack blend. You can use whatever you would like. And then the recipe does not call for this, and I will leave the recipe linked down in the description. And it doesn't call for black beans, but we like black beans, and I have a bunch already cooked up that have been sitting in the freezer. So I decided to go ahead and add some black beans to this as well. So for the mixture, you just mix all of that together. I used a hand mixer for it to make it a little easier, and I'm sorry that it shook the camera so bad. It was sitting on the counter. And then I just let that sit while the chicken was cooking in the Instant Pot. While the chicken was cooking, there is a sauce that you make for the top. So normally when I make enchiladas, I just buy the can of enchilada sauce. And for this recipe, you actually make your own sauce. So you just start by melting some butter, and then you add in your flour and your spices. The recipe says to use taco seasoning, but I don't purchase taco seasoning. I just use spices that have a taco flavor. So coriander, cumin, chili powder, garlic, onion, and some salt and pepper. And I just do those instead. But if you wanted to use taco, like a pre-made taco seasoning, you could definitely do that here. So once you have all the spices in the pan, you are going to mix them around in that butter and soak up all of that butter. And then you add in your liquid. So you are going to add in your chicken. I used chicken broth. Now this is meant to be like a thicker sauce. So add your liquid in slow so it doesn't break. And then after you get that mixed in really well and it sits for a minute, you're going to add in some sour cream and then mix that in really well also. And then I don't actually remember if the recipe calls for putting cheese in this, but I started doing it before I even thought about it. So I just went ahead and threw some cheese in here as well. We like cheese, so it didn't hurt anything. It tasted really good. And then when the chicken was done, I put it in the bowl with the mixture, and I used my hand mixer to shred the chicken just in the mixture itself. And then I am filling tortillas. I did fill them a little bit full, but I wanted to make sure we used up all of the tortillas. And I'm placing them in a greased baking dish, and I have the oven preheated already. I believe I had it at 350. I know that the recipe has a temperature on there, and our oven runs a little hot, so sometimes I don't pay attention to that very much. After I filled all of the tortillas and got them in the pan, you cover it with the sauce that you made, and then I did top it with just a little more cheese, and then you bake it. And the only point of baking it is to warm everything together because it's all cooked already. So you're melting the cheese on top and getting that sauce nice and warm and bubbly. It doesn't take very long. And then I had a very hungry, cranky toddler, and I forgot to get a video of what it looked like at the end, but this is what it looked like. They were really good, and they made really good leftovers too, so highly recommend this one. Second meal I'm going to share with you is a smothered chicken recipe, and we ate this with rice. So that's what I'm doing here. I have basmati rice, and I'm making half a cup, and I always rinse my rice before I cook it, and I'm going to be cooking it in the Instant Pot. So I just rinse it until the water is running completely clear, and then I transfer it to my Instant Pot, and I add in just a little more than equal parts water. So I have half a cup of rice, and I added just over half a cup of water. It's just, I know a lot of recipes say just do 1 to 1, but this is how I do it. And then I just add a little bit of salt and pepper to it for something like this, because the chicken will have its own sauce. You put the lid on, and you want to make sure that the knob always is on sealing before you get started. And then this cooked on manual for 6 minutes. While that was cooking, I'm just getting my chicken ready to go. So I'm trimming off some of the fatty, gross edge pieces, and then I'm going to butterfly the breasts so that they're thin, and then I also pound them out because you are going to be frying them, and you want them pretty thin, and they cook faster that way. After they are all pounded out, then I mixed up a dredge for them, because again, you're going to fry these, which is just flour, breadcrumbs, and some seasonings. I will leave this recipe also down in the description. And if I were to do this differently, I would add more breadcrumbs to this. It had more of like a flour breading, and I think the bread crispiness of the breadcrumbs would have been good. I also should mention, I forgot to make bacon. You're supposed to have bacon with this too, and I forgot to, and I think it really would have enhanced the dish a lot. So then I'm moving on to dredging my chicken. I forgot to pat the chicken dry, and I think that was a big factor in the dredge not sticking very well to the chicken. I'm not perfect in the kitchen. I've been cooking for many years, but sometimes I make mistakes, especially if I have people that are talking to me or I have a little one running around at my feet. It's just I get distracted and I forget. So then I just continue the process with all 4 pieces of chicken, making sure that I got it really well covered on both sides. After that was done, I have some oil on the stove top, heat it up, and I'm going to cook the chicken until it is golden brown on both sides. At first, only 3 of the chicken breast pieces fit in the pan, and they do kind of shrivel up a little bit as they're cooking. So once I got to the point where I flipped these over, I was able to add that 4th one in. And once they're done cooking, you actually just put them off to the side, and you don't cook them all the way either, because you are going to cook them again later in the sauce. So you cook them most of the way. I did most of the way so that they wouldn't have to cook in the sauce quite as long. But really here, you're just trying to get them crispy and golden and delicious. And then you set them off to the side. Once they are done cooking and they're off to the side, I added more butter to the pan and used a rubber spatula to scrape all of the drippings and the extra oil and there were like a couple little chunks of the breading. Scrape all of that off, and then you add in some flour to soak it up. I am really bad about following directions. I just kind of eyeball it, and you whisk that together. Like I was saying with the enchiladas, this is actually supposed to be a gravy, and you see how it's like really thick here, and then you add in your chicken broth. I added my chicken broth too much at a time, so this first time was fine. I added it in, whisked it around, it was great. But then when I added my second batch here, I should have added only part of that and not the whole thing, because I broke the gravy. It still tasted really good. It ended up being more of a sauce, which was okay, because we had served this over rice instead of mashed potatoes, which was what was recommended. So then when I added in the half and half, it didn't do much but create a sauce. So just keep that in mind to add your liquids slow, or it will become a sauce and not a thick gravy. I added in the Worcestershire sauce and some seasonings and whisked that together, and then this just stayed on the stove top until it was bubbly. And then you add the chicken back into the pan and let it simmer like that until the chicken is fully cooked. It only took mine about 10 minutes since I had cooked the chicken most of the way, and that's how long it took to get the chicken warmed back up too, so that we could eat. And my rice was done, so like I said, we put this on top of rice, and then we also served it with a side of broccoli. This next recipe I have to share with you, I don't have the final product of it because this was actually a day that I had my anatomy scan for baby number 2, and my mom was coming to the house to stay with Ryder for the day, so I was getting something in the crock pot for them. So she actually finished it up later on, and I wasn't going to ask her to film that. So this is a Crockpot Chicken Pot Pie. So in the crock pot, I already have 2 chicken breasts, and I just seasoned it with onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and parsley. And then I am peeling some potatoes, and I am going to dice them up into not super small pieces, and those are actually just going to go right on top of the chicken. This is kind of layered, and this was really good. We actually decided not to eat out while we were at the doctor for dinner. We decided to just come home and eat this, and it was really good. So after you get all of the potatoes chopped up and put on top, you then will add more seasoning. You want to season every layer so that it's flavorful and you don't forget anything or it's not lacking in seasoning. So I did the same seasoning: salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and some parsley. After that, you add in a bag of mixed vegetables or whatever vegetables you like in your pot pie. We just have this bag of frozen vegetables mixed in there. And then you put 1 can of cream of chicken soup on top. And I kind of spread it around a little bit. And then like 1 can equivalent of milk on top. And again, I seasoned this layer to make sure that it was tasty and flavorful and ready to go. This cooked all day in the crock pot until the potatoes were done and the chicken was done. And then my mom just had to shred the chicken, and she made some biscuits in the oven to go along with it. And this is just what it looked like before we put it in the crock pot. The last meal I'm sharing with you is a very simple chicken nachos. We love Mexican food, or American Mexican food, I guess is what we should probably call it. My husband usually just eats his nachos however, like the base way I make them, and then I put stuff on top. So I am just chopping up some tomato and jalapeno, some cilantro, and some green onions that I had. And that's just what I will put on my nachos later on. And then I just had 1 chicken breast, and I cut it up into pretty thin, small pieces so that I can cook that up with some seasonings. Like in the first part of the video, if you wanted to use taco seasoning with the chicken, you totally could. I just used similar taco seasoning type spices, and then I had cut it on the cutting board that had the cilantro on it, that I had just cut the cilantro on it, so it also had some cilantro flavor as well, which was delicious. So I just cooked that in a pan with a little bit of oil, and then I started laying my chips out. When I do nachos, we do them on a sheet pan and put them in the oven so it melts the cheese and gets it really crispy. I am kind of particular about how I lay the chips so that every chip gets a nice amount of filling on them. And then after I laid them out, I decided that I should kind of split them. So one side would be my husband's, one side would be mine, since I put toppings on mine. And then I added in the refried beans that I showed in my last grocery haul. They weren't coming out of the package very well because they were cold. So I actually put them in a bowl and heated them up and then kind of drizzled them over the chips. And then my battery died, and I didn't notice it until after I had already finished with the nachos and put it in the oven. But the only other thing I did is I put some nacho cheese, some Rico's nacho cheese, and then a little bit of shredded cheese, and then I tossed them in the oven and baked them at 350 for about 10 minutes. And then when they came out, that is when I added toppings to mine. So again, my husband just had his plain Jane, and I put cilantro, onion, tomato, sour cream, and hot sauce on mine. But that is everything that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. Like this video if you like seeing meal ideas and if you like it broke down into the type of protein we have. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.